Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of DP-700 practice questions. So yesterday we covered question number 26, which is about which permission do we give on unmasking, like a mask permission, how we can mask a data dynamically. That's dynamic data masking feature, which is there in SQL Server as well. I will go to the next question, that is 27. Your company is implementing a new data governance strategy using Microsoft Fabric. Data warehouse contain various tables with sensitive information that must be protected from unauthorized access. The data warehouse contains various tables with sensitive information. So you wanted to we wanted to restrict the table, right? You need to ensure the only authorized medical personnel can access the medical history column in patient table. So they mentioned like it's a column from patient. So you have to have a column security, right? So you have a column level security. That dynamic data masking is more of like masking data, so that doesn't work. Raw level security doesn't work here because you are not restricting raw level. You wanted to restrict it in column level, and as well as on the workspace rule doesn't work. So column level security should be the right answer, correct? The organization is using a Microsoft Fabric to manage a data warehouse containing sensitive financial data, including columns such as account number, balance, and transaction history. You need to ensure the only authorized financial team members can view the transaction history column. Again, column level security, right? Authorized view the transaction history column. I believe it's a column level security. We'll learn if it is wrong. Again, when you see column, it's column level. Your organization makes Fabric Warehouse Management security team concerned about unauthorized access to sensitive customer information in a database. You need to ensure the sensitive data is protected and accessible only to authorized users. Which three actions should you perform? Each correct answer present part of the solution. That means like you have to have these three steps that ensure the unauthorized data access. Defining data masking for sensitive column, definitely that can be an idea. Grant unmasked permission to authorized user, that means like only authorized users can see. Remove all the masking rules from the database, doesn't look good, right? Revoke select permission for non-privileged user. Test masking with a non-privileged user. Yeah, testing can look like an answer, but revoke select permission from a non-privileged user is also look like right answer. But I am confident these two. Let us see what is the right answer. Yeah, because revoke select permission. Let us learn like why revoke select permission from non-privileged users doesn't work, right? Define as asking the column unauthorized access cannot view the information aligning with the security objective. Granting unmasked permission to authorized user allow them to access the unmasked data, maintaining controlled access. Testing masking with the non-privileged users confirm action of the masking. Ensure removing all masking rule would expose sensitive data. Agree. Revoking select permission from non-privileged user is impractical as it restricts the access to all data nodes. Yes. So because when you revoke the select permission, it is restricting the entire data access, not just on this, right? Because we only need to mask the data. So you still have to have the select permission. That is why this answer was wrong and this is correct. Clear? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric to manage a data warehouse containing sensitive customer information, including email addresses and credit card numbers. You need to prevent non-privileged users from viewing full email address and credit card information. So when you see full email address and credit card information, that means like you need a masking required, correct? Because it's a column level. They have mentioned like what column it is. Each correct answer is a part of the solution. So it's very clear like it is a column level, but we'll see. Yeah. Use dynamic data masking on a credit card number with partial. Use dynamic data masking on an email with the email function. So that look like a right answer, because apply column level security to restrict access to sensitive column is not required, because they are saying like users from viewing the full email address. That means they still need to see some of this email address and understand it's an email address, right? So that's again a right answer. We are going to next question. Your company implement a new data analytics solution using Microsoft Fabric. You need to design an orchestration pattern that minimize the manual intervention and support dynamic data loading into a lakehouse. Which approach? So create an individual pipeline for each data source does not look like a dynamic approach, right? Implementing a data factory pipeline with parameter and dynamic expression look like a correct answer, but let us go through other answers and validate is it correct. Use single notebook for all ETL activities doesn't, without parameters, so that eliminates use static configuration. Yeah, so definitely right. Implementing a data factory pipeline with parameter and dynamic expression should be the right answer, given like you have to have the reduce this manual intervention, and as well as like there should be a dynamic support. So because here the questions are straightforward, where you would be able to understand the answers from the question itself, right? Your organization uses the Microsoft Synapse Analytics to manage data pipeline. A new requirement has emerged to trigger a pipeline whenever a new file is uploaded in a specific folder and Microsoft Azure. So that means like your pipeline should be triggered. So it's an event trigger like that. Like there is a file is placed Azure Blob storage account. It should be. So now the question is like create a storage event trigger for blob to create the event in the folder. Schedule a daily doesn't work, because you want this to be happening when this event is happening. Use a logic app to monitor and storage account for new files doesn't matter, because we want this pipeline to be triggered. Use an Azure function to monitor the storage account and triggering the pipeline. So that's again more complicated, right? When you already have a storage trigger, why do you need to take all these complications here, right? So that's a correct answer. So now your company is implementing a data warehouse solution using Microsoft Fabric. The data engineering team needs to load the data from multiple CSV files stored in an Azure Blob storage into a data warehouse. You need to efficiently import the data from these CSV files into a warehouse using T-SQL. That means like you need a T-SQL commands that load the files from CSV. Each correct answer is a part of the solution. That means like you have to have three options, right? Yeah, so we are going to use data flow to load the CSV, no, right? Because we don't want that. Use SAS token to Azure Blob storage access, it may be required, I don't know. Use bulk insert statement to load CSV is also look like a correct answer. Use copy statement with wildcard for file path, that look like correct. So that means like if you are taking this use copy statement with wildcard, that means like you will get everything from the file path. Use insert select from loading CSV data is not required. Use specify the field termination in the copy statement, that's required. Then definitely like we can say that okay, SAS token for the Azure Blob storage account access is required. So I'm not super confident in the answer, but we are going to learn if it is right or wrong. Yeah, so that means like copy activity is the best for when you copy a files directly, when you copy CSV files and everything, stored in a blob storage into warehouse. Copy activity is one of the copy statement, not activity. Copy statement is one of the recommended approach, right? Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric for managing the data pipeline in large scale. The current setup involved multiple pipeline triggering by specific event and schedules, facing the challenge with hard-coded values. You need to implement dynamic parameterization, enhance the flexibility and reduce the maintenance. Enhance the flexibility and reduce the maintenance. Hardcode the value in the configuration doesn't sound like an answer, right? Pass external values using pipeline parameters look like a sensible, because you wanted to pass parameter. Use dynamic expression for runtime valuation. Use static trigger. Use static. So when you see static, you would have to think that okay, this probably may not be the option, right? So we'll see. Yeah, so whatever the dynamic passing parameters, you can keep looking at these values, and also pause this video whenever you required, because I don't want to keep reading through these statements when the answer is correct and explaining you. But you can always go through this so to get a core understanding about why this answer, like maybe if you thought about a different option why that is wrong, you will be able to read through that answer and understand. Your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric for managing data pipelines in a large scale ETL process. The setup involved multiple pipelines that must handle different data sets dynamically, reducing a hard coding and improving maintainability. You need to reuse the pipeline component with varying input during the execution, right? You need to reuse the pipeline, right? So what is saying, different dataset dynamically reducing the hard coding. So hard code the dataset path doesn't look like a correct answer, correct? Yeah, pass external values as a parameter, use string interpolation. So string interpolation is nothing but like concatenation and creating this parameter kind of thing, right? So pass external values, hard coding, because when you read these answers, you yourself will be able to make out even without having so much of knowledge about this fabric and all. Some of these questions are straightforward. Your organization uses Microsoft Fabric to manage the real-time data ingestion from various IoT devices through Azure Event Hub. The data is processed and stored in a Microsoft Delta Lake for further analysis. You need to ensure that unnecessary columns such as uh, you need to ensure that unnecessary columns such as sensor ID are removed before storing the data in a Microsoft Delta Lake format. That means there should be a data manipulation or transformation should be happening, right? So let us see. Store data in a temporary staging area and filter the columns before final storage. Use a batch processing system to clean the data before transfer. Use Spark Job to pre-process the data before ingestion. Use an event process to remove the unnecessary column. I have no idea like what is the right answer. So I'm like the only thing is like I read it as like Delta Lake for further analysis. That means like the destination is Delta. So I assume like it can be Spark Job, but yeah, I'm wrong. So use event processor to remove the unnecessary column. So there is something called event processor that would help you to do the transformation before loading the data. So this I didn't know that. So when you go through, now I know that okay, there is something like this event processor to remove the unnecessary before sending the data lake into most efficient solution, as it automates the filtering process and ensure only relevant data is stored. Job processing can be unnecessarily complex and reduce the intensive compared to the built-in tools, correct? Yeah. Now your company has implemented a Microsoft application. The data is used for generating Microsoft Power BI reports and require regular updates. You need to ensure Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse is updated incrementally to reflect the changes from source system. Implementing a watermark strategy, use full data reload approach, use batch processing, use change data capture. So we need an incremental approach, right? So the question was like incrementally to reflect the changes from the source system. So CDC can be the answer. No. So implemented watermark strategy. So we'll understand that. I don't know what what strategy is. Implement watermark strategy is the most efficient method for achieving incremental updates. So as it tracks the changes and ensure only new or modified data is loaded. That means like kind of if you know this versioning concept, right? So watermark is nothing but the versioning concept, which will like say okay, until this record is loaded, and next time when the file comes only load the after that. That's the concept of incremental watermarks, right? Yeah, so using change data capture is not most efficient approach for incremental update in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse environment. CDC also like track the changes, but that is not efficient since we already have this watermark strategy available. That is the efficient out of this. Your company experienced performance issues with its current ETL process, which involves loading large volume of sales data into fact tables of Microsoft Fabric. The process currently uses the full reload strategy, which is the time consuming and resource intensive, right? Which is the time consuming and resource intensive. So you need to enhance an ETL process to boost the performance and decrease the resource usage. So how we can enhance the ETL process to boost the performance? Continue full reload with increase the compute resource. That is like that doesn't look ideal, right? Because you are increasing the compute resource is not an efficient option right away. So next is the implement an incremental load strategy. That look like a sensible idea because you are not like taking the load of the entire data every time, right? Manually partition the fact table, switch to Azure Data Factory for ETL. So that is not really necessary. Which capture for tracking changes. So involve the data, large volume of changes. In fact, I think the partitioning can be a good idea given they have already mentioned the large data set and also like incremental. So let us see. Yeah. What happened? Okay, so I was wrong, but I missed to select the second option. That's right. I'm not seeing a wrong answer. So yeah, use change data capture is the option they are recommending to tracking the changes. Okay. Your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric to manage real-time data from IoT devices sent to Azure Event Hub. Design a solution to process the events for storage in Fabric Lakehouse. Design a solution to process the event. Set up an event stream with Azure Event Hub as a source. Use the Azure Data Factory for real-time data ingestion. Use the Azure Stream Analytics for processing. Use Data Factory pipeline to ingest the data. Use event processor to filter the transform the data. So the question is like a real-time event solution to process the event for storage in Fabric. So we need to have a solution that manage the real-time data, right? Use Azure Stream Analytics to process the data. This can be an answer. In Data Factory, chances are less. And ingest data into Lakehouse, use the event processor. So I'm not confident. I think event processor can also be because we read it previously, right? Let's try like what is correct. Okay. Event processor and event stream are the right answers. So we should go and optimize storage. Azure Event Hub is not appropriate storing process data in a Fabric Lakehouse. So you got to understand that Azure Event Hub is not supporting Lakehouse, but our goal was to Lakehouse, right? It's not appropriate. It is more suitable for batch processing. So understand that Azure Data Factory is more efficient and recommended for batch processing. That is why Data Factory options are eliminated by default. Okay. You are implementing a data warehouse using Microsoft Fabric. You need to integrate the data for multiple sources, including Microsoft Azure Data Lake Storage N2 and Microsoft SQL Server Database. You need to design a process efficiently load data into tables while ensuring the data quality and consistency. Each correct answer presents a part of the solution, and we need to give two answers. Use Azure Synapse Analytics for data ingestion. Use Data Factory pipeline for orchestration and TCL execution. Makes sense. Use data flow to ingest, transform data from Azure Data Lake Gens to use SSIS packages for data ingestion. SSIS packages are allowed, but that is not a modern approach. Synapse Analytics can be an option here, but at the same time, I'm a little confused with the data flows to inject the transform the data from data lake. So I'll go with both these options. So let us see. Yeah, they are right. So we can definitely read through and understand why like SIS package is data integration less efficient because it is a legacy system. And Synapse Analytics is powerful tool for data analytics and integration. It is not specifically designed for an ETL process required to transform the load into a dimension models, right? Your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric to manage data across the cloud platform. You need to integrate data from a cloud storage services into Lakehouse in Microsoft OneLake. You need to integrate the data from cloud storage services into a lakehouse. You need to ensure the data from the cloud storage services is accessible within the lakehouse without duplication. Create a shortcut pointing to the cloud storage is the most ideal option because there is a feature called shortcut where you can connect any of the data from external sources like S3 or any other storage outside, right? You will be able to use something called shortcut that will help you to manage the data like your local data. Okay, there is some concept called caching. Caching will store up to 1 GB of data. If the file is more than 1 GB, caching is not allowed, and caching will also be cleared out if the file is not in use for 24 hours. So these kind of fundamentals are there. Yeah, so then data factory pipeline to export, data factory pipeline, all these options are creating a data redundancy, and they mention like there shouldn't be a data redundancy, right? So I believe like shortcut is the answer. Yes, that is the answer. I already explained why, because it's only creating the shortcut. Your company uses the dynamic data masking means like you can think about a dynamic data masking as like you're giving star 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 instead of showing the name of a person, right? You need to configure a DDM so non-privileged user see master version of this field. Which function should you use? Yeah, so protect the sensitive customer information including email, phone number, right? Okay, so you need to configure DDM to so non-privileged use. So default, see all these like email is an option, partial is an option where you can customize and give it. Which masking function should you apply to credit card number? Yeah, read the question. So I would have given a wrong answer. So this is the ideal option for credit card. Okay, I would have given a wrong answer without reading the question clearly. So always you will have 50% of your answer in your question. Um, your organization uses the Microsoft Fabric for data analytics. The SQL database mirrors data to OneLake. You need to ensure mirroring data is consistent and accessible during the SQL database downtime. To ensure that mirror data is consistent and accessible during the SQL database downtime. Reconfigure settings after downtime. Set up a data integration pipeline. Use automatic mirroring in Microsoft Fabric is a feature that allow you to automatically enable that. That means like this main is gone, the mirrored database will act as main and you will not have any issue. So automatic mirroring is there. You don't need to go with a pipeline, complications, reconfigure and all these things. So everything will be taken care by Fabric. You use Microsoft Fabric to manage the data across the warehouses and lakehouses. You need to integrate the data from a warehouse and a lakehouse into a single table for analysis, right? So you need to integrate the data from warehouse and lakehouse into a single table for analysis. You can select as city statement. Azure Data Factory, Data Flow Gen 2. I think Data Flow Gen 2 look like an ideal option where I can combine all this data. Let us see. Now create table as select CTAS. CTAS statement is a best choice for integrating data from a warehouse and a lakehouse into single table as it allows the creation of new table based on the combined data. Okay, so that means like it combine the data and store it. Data flow gen 2 with the while useful for data preparation transformation does not directly support the creation of new table from combined data sources. Combined data sources, if you wanted to create, just that create table as select CTA statement. Okay. Yeah, moving on to the next question. You are implementing a new data analytics solution using Microsoft Fabric. Your team consists of the data engineers skilled in PySpark and SQL, the data analytics analysts who primarily use Microsoft Power BI, and the data to be ingested, including structured, semi-structured, and unstructured format from various sources. Select the data store that accommodate the diverse data format and support both PySpark and SQL operations for data transformation analysis. So which two data store provide a complete solution, right? So what do you want? Like you want an engines. So team is skilled on all these PySpark and everything. So where it is, everything is supported, and at the same time you also want like different types of data to be stored, right? Like the data. So that means like lakehouse is something which allow you to store all types of data, and Azure data lake storage gen 2 can be the same way, and Fabric even house, I believe, like we don't need to go to Fabric here. I think Synapse and data lake can takes care of this. Let us see. Okay, lake house was the right answer instead of gen. Why data lake is not supported? Azure Synapse Analytics is suitable because it is supports, because Synapse I'm clear because it supports SQL, Spark, and all these things. And Microsoft Lakehouse is also appropriate as it supports the structure, semi-structured, and unstructured data format using both PySpark and SQL, aligning with the team skills. And in contrast, Microsoft Fabric Event House is designed to real-time. Event House is real-time and format, but not optimal for batch processing and large-scale transformations, which require data lake. Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, while capable for storing diverse data format, does not natively support PySpark and SQL operation. That's the problem. Okay, it doesn't support it supports, like you can create that on top of Synapse and you will be able to do that. So I am not 100% buying the answer which they gave, but given this is the select answer we are giving. But data lake storage can store the data and you can use the Synapse analytics to query on top of this. That's still possible in Azure. Your company is using a Microsoft Fabric to manage the large scale data analytics and processing the same data from multiple sources. You need to find a solution for real time data transformation and storage. Data Factory is not a real time, right? Azure Data Lake Analytics for real time processing is also not recommended. Azure Stream Analytics, Spark Structure Streaming. When you see a streaming and you see structure streaming in Spark, there is no better answer than that, because Spark structure streaming are awesome when it comes to transformation and real time streaming. You process streaming data from various sources using Microsoft Fabric and require a transformation in storage lakehouse analytics. Same question, isn't it? Like, okay. So I'll give the same answer because it's the same question. Yeah. Now create your organization is implementing a real-time analytics solution using Microsoft Fabric to process streaming data from IoT devices. You need to configure a job, ingest the streaming data into a table for near real-time querying. Which of these actions should you perform as a part of the solution? Create a Spark job definition with Python script for structure streaming. That look like a correct answer. Set a checkpoint location of streaming job nodes. Store data into JSON file for lateral analysis. Use batch processing. Use delta table as a sink for streaming data. I think these two look like a correct answer. Three options they are looking. Set a checkpoint location in streaming job also can be related, right? Yeah, they are correct. So how did I choose this option? Because I know I'm choosing streaming, right? And I also like use delta as a sink. So definitely like the streaming job checkpoints can be connected. So I did a guesswork, but that worked. Your organization implement a real-time analytics solution using Microsoft Fabric to process streaming data from IoT devices. You need to ensure that efficient processing of streaming data for prompt querying, each correct answer present a part of the solution. We have to select 2. To ensure the efficient processing and streaming of the data for prompt querying. Implement a Spark structure streaming when it comes to streams, such SQL analytics endpoint. Store streaming data into JSON. Use data for prompt query. Use batch processing. So I think these two can be the answer, because you need a prompt querying option. That SQL analytics endpoint will help you to run the query. Please go through this in detail, so that like you are going to learn about all these other options which is there, which you might be able to apply in the actual exam. This is the last question. Your organization is implementing a real-time analytics solution using Microsoft Fabric to process the stream data from IoT devices. You need to ensure that the stream data is efficiently processed and is accessible for analysis, right? So configure a SQL analytics endpoint, set up a Power BI data flow, use real time, right? So stream analytics, or you have a structure streaming, and SQL endpoint would help you to like accessible for through SQL, right? So these were the 50 questions we attended. We have the part 1. If you haven't watched the part 1, please feel free to watch. This available in the same channel. So now if you do this practice question which I have taken, so I scored only 76%, where to be a better preparer of the exam, aim to achieve 80%, right? So like before I conclude, this will give you a clarity which area, as we discussed, we have 3 areas: implementing the managing analytics solution, ingest data and transformation, monitoring and optimizing the analytics solution. These are the 3 areas, right? So in this I'm like lacking in ingesting and transforming the data. So we will also have option to show my answers, where which will show you each answer, and you can go through and learn like which answer is wrong, which answer is right, and why this was like. In case if you haven't selected the check answer option in the first place, you'll always be able to come back and access this. And this is Microsoft assessment option, which they are giving you to allowing you to take tests for free. But before I conclude, I just wanted to share a few more information to all of you, because one thing is like however this is a Microsoft powered platform, and they are giving the questions. The actual questions at the test is entirely different. The test would be for 130 to 140 minutes, where you will have around 43 to 45 questions. 43 to 45 questions are initially, and you will have 8 questions that is coming as a case study. So when it comes to these 43 questions, when I am saying, that will again divided into like 2 category, like maybe 40 and 3, where like first 40 questions you will have, and the questions are not going to be as simple as you see. They will first set the context, and the answers required more hands-on than what you have seen, because here if you really recall these answers which we did, you only need the theoretical aspects of it. But the questions which you are going to experience in this test are going to be like, okay, which feature you need to enable, and they will give you like 3 feature name. If you have never seen this screen, if you have never experienced like how that options are, you will like it will be little hard for you to give the right answer. However, most of the answers look similar, right? So the elimination method would still work, but that will not be as efficient as how we did here. One thing to keep in mind, and the first 40 question you will have like multiple choice, single select, and as well as like mapping this like step and drag and drop kind of things, and also like filling the blanks. Like you will have a query, and some of the areas would be blank, where you will have a drop down, you will be choosing that. All these types will be there for the 40 question, and 3 questions which is there, that you will not have a review option. So that's like these three questions will have the same question, and you got to give yes or no answer. And maybe once you give yes on the first one and you go to next one, then you will still confused, okay, did my first answer was right or wrong, where you will not have an option to go back and edit it. So this kind of three questions would be there. Then you will go to case study. Case study will like you got to at least dedicate 30 minutes of your time for case study, because case study will be a detailed scenario where you will be answering these 8 questions based on the scenario and bottleneck the customer is facing. So you should be able to understand this customer problems and requirement very clearly by taking 10 to 15 minutes reading, so that like you will be able to confidently answer these answers provide this answer. Just keep this in mind. There are chances maybe you go through first 43 questions and you into review pages and you believe okay, you are done and you are going to complete, but that is not the case. Always have this timer running on the right corner. Make sure that it's enabled, where you would be able to see how much time pending. And in addition, I just wanted to conclude this just by adding one more thing. This exam is an open book exam. That means like Microsoft Learn is available along with your exam, where you can choose that and search in Microsoft Learn to validate your answer. But keep in mind, you are still inside the time bound, so you got to make sure that you are answering all these things, questions, going through all the questions, answering whatever you know, and whichever you don't know, you give this guess answer and keep it for review. And you should only be using this open book option when you think that okay, you got to got enough time to search, where however your case study will be done as a second phase, and you are keeping enough time for case study before spending time on searching and optimizing the answers. So hope this video is helpful. I'll try to have the practical sessions which help you to get more insight and confidence on writing this exam. You always follow this Microsoft content to get and try practicing. Just keep this in mind. This practice test and the actual test is entirely different. Please don't just believe that the questions are like this. Questions are even more complicated. No, not in the way of what you're learning, the way it is defined. It required more detailed attention for you to learn and understand how Azure Fabrics work for a data engineer. Thank you for watching. Have a good rest of the day.